I attended a Ren Faire this year and I had 3 days to make 2 costumes for Drew and I, and this is how it turned out. I've been wanting to live out my fairy core dreams, so I went with a dark fairy costume this time around. And Drew wanted to be a huntsman, so we went with the idea that he was a huntsman that was enthralled by the fairy. My inspiration for the whole outfit kind of was based off of these wings that I found online. I did draw up a couple ideas for the outfit itself. It was loosely revolving around the wings that I found and some sparkly fabric that I already had. And then I added some more like sparkly and dark elements throughout. Drew's outfit inspiration went more based off of items we already had in his closet and then a few others that I found online. I didn't really end up sticking too closely to his mock-up, but I did make a few items for him as well. But before we get into the video, if you stumbled in for the first time, I am Chloe of Everhearth Inn, Every Adventurer's Tavern, and without further ado, let's get into the video. So I'm going to start with the skirt. I found this sparkly fabric a while back, and I didn't really know what to do with it at the time, but I felt like this cute, sparkly fairy outfit would be a perfect way to put it to use. The skirt was pretty straightforward to make. The plan was to make a simple maxi skirt, and to keep a lot of flow with the skirt, I kept the width of the bottom to about 44 inches plus like a ½ inch seam allowance on both sides. I ended up cutting straight up and keeping the waist the same width as the bottom of the skirt. In hindsight, I should have done a bit more of an A-line shape and had a bit closer to my actual waist circumference plus a few inches, but I'm still learning. For the length, I measured my waist to the floor and then added a couple inches to account for the waistband and the hem. And then I sewed the 2 long edges together to create a cylinder of fabric, keeping the fabric inside out. I folded the top of the skirt down to create a tube for the elastic to go in, and I made sure it was wide enough for my 1.5 inch elastic. And then I sewed that closed almost all the way around, leaving just a little bit of space to insert the elastic. I then attached a safety pin to the end of my elastic and used that to pull the elastic all the way through the waistband of the skirt. And it was at this point that I realized with sheer fabric, the elastic did look a little bit weird. So then I found a tan fabric that I just had some scrap fabric of and used that as a liner for the inside of the waistband. And then I sewed this tan fabric into a tube and shoved it into the sheer skirt's waistband using the same safety pin method as I had before. And then after I pulled the liner all the way through, I then added the original elastic again and then sewed the waistband closed. And then using the same method, I made a sheer black skirt to layer over top of the sparkly skirt. This time I used an opaque black fabric for the waistband of the skirt. And here is what both the skirts look like, separated and layered. As you can see, the waistbands are pretty thick. That will have to be something that I improve on next time with a more A-line shape of the skirt, I think is the technical term. Now with the 2 skirts done, it was time to move on to the sleeves. I made up the shape of these a bit as I went, but I'll try to explain the best that I can. So I started by measuring the length from above my elbow to my hand, and then I added some seam allowance to that as well. And then for the width, I measured how far I wanted the drop to be at my wrist, and then I cut out a rectangle from both the sparkly and the black fabrics. Again, I should have done a bit more of an angle here to avoid too much of the fabric at the elastic, but oh well. I know better for next time. And then I sewed these 2 fabrics together all the way around to make a single piece, and then I flipped it right side out again. Similarly to the skirt, I folded the elbow side of the sleeve over and then sewed a tube for the elastic. I used a lot thinner of elastic this time. It was about 0.5 inches, and then I pulled it through using the exact same method as before. I also sewed the wrist side of the sleeve about 0.5 inches up to keep the fabric in place. And then I did the same process again for the other sleeve, and then they were done. Now with the skirt and the sleeves done, it was time to gather some supplies for the accessories. I found this spooky lamp, some sparkly beads, various chains, and then what I believe is a DIY chandelier gem set. I planned on using these to make some jewelry and sparkly accents for the outfit. So I started with a simple necklace using the black chain and some of the small crystal beads. I used metal jump ring findings to attach them to a chain, and I did not have a lobster clasp or anything like that, so I just used a black safety pin for the closure instead. It worked fine. Next, I started working with the large chandelier gems that I found. I attached these to varying lengths of chain, adding a couple of the smaller crystal beads to the longer chains. I then attached a safety pin to the top of each of these lengths of chain. I then used these crystal chains for accenting various accessories that I had, such as the moon belt that was already in my closet. I used the safety pins to attach the gems to the existing chain on the belt. I also added some of the gems to the wings and the lantern that I had found earlier. Speaking of the lantern, I secured it with this other belt that I had had in my closet, and I just looped it through the handle at the top of the lantern. And with that, my outfit was pretty much done. Wait, we have to add a shirt from my closet. There, that's perfect. Okay, on to Drew's outfit, and then I will show the final results on. First up to tackle on Drew's outfit is the pants. I have never made pants before, so this was going to be an adventure in itself. So I took a pair of baggy pants that fit Drew really well, and I traced out the seam lines onto the brown fleece fabric that I found at the craft store, adding a 1/2 inch or so for seam allowance. This was the first time that I had made my own pattern from an existing garment, so I was kind of just going with the flow here. I then sewed and cut pieces together so they matched the black pair of pants, and I ended up having Drew try on the pants before fully hemming it. I did need to make a few adjustments, but then I ended up getting pretty close in the end. I was kind of surprised. After the size of the pants looked right, I then cut out a waistband and added in the 1.5 inch elastic, same thing that I did for the skirts. And then I also added a band and elastic to the ankles as well. And then it was done. This was actually the hardest part of the outfit, but I am very happy with how it turned out. Now on to the shoulder cape. I found this faux fur at the craft store, and it matched his pants pretty well. Measurements wise, it was very eyeballed. I basically draped the fur onto Drew's shoulders to gauge like the width and the length that I needed. And then when I was happy with that, I cut this semicircle-ish shape. I did this twice, once for the front piece and once for the back. And then to make sure it was even, I folded it over on itself and followed my initial cut. I then ended up keeping the additional fur later to attach to his boots. When I was happy with the shape, I clipped it good side to good side and then sewed it closed all the way around, leaving a 2-inch hole so I could pull it right side out when I was done. Next, I took these leather sew-on closures and then I hand sewed them to the 2 corners of the cloak using the most durable string that I had. In hindsight, I should have sewn this on before I sewed the 2 fur pieces together, but you couldn't really see the string through the fur at all, so it was fine in the end. And that was it for the cloak. Now on to the axe holster. I got this prop axe on Amazon, and Drew needed a holster to be able to put it in his belt. So I got this 1.5 inch wide leather strip, and I cut 2 approximately 6-inch long pieces, as that was the length I needed to fit the axe hilt and the belt comfortably. I then arranged them like so and proceeded to hand sew the ends together for the hilt loop. I then attached the belt loop by punching 2 grommet holes and then looping some leather lace that I already had through the holes. I'm sure there was a better way to do this, but it was really all I could come up with at the time. And it may not be the prettiest, but it did get the job done. And then that was it for Drew's outfit. But before we get into the final results, if you like this video, give us a subscribe, hit that notification bell, and toss a like to the video. We also have a Patreon if you want to support us over there. We have a Discord, a TikTok, and an Instagram if you want to follow us on those. And without further ado, let's get into the final results. think that they turned out pretty dang good for only having 3 days to make them. There are a few things on my outfit that I would fix, particularly the skirt waistbands being so thick. But other than that, I feel like I did a pretty good job for not using any patterns. I may have saved myself a bit of frustration, especially on Drew's pants, if I had an actual pattern, but I think overall it turned out pretty well, and it was a good learning experience. Drew, what do you think about your outfit?
I think it's great. It was really cool to have you make it, which is a special touch. I think if I had to complain about one thing, we used an existing pair of pants I have that is stretchy and kind of low in the crotch, whatever that is, which works if it's stretchy, but this is not. So it's a little bit restrictive. So that's the only thing I could critique. Everything else is like great, honestly.
Yeah, I'm not too good with my fabric knowledge yet, so I kind of just picked what I thought looked good. I didn't really know the makeup of the fabric, so yeah, having a stretchy fabric for pants is ideal. I know I don't like stiff pants, so I think they look really good, and I'm very happy with how they turned out. I learned a lot of things, and I can't wait for the next Ren Faire.
If you like this video, we have another video where we made affordable Amazon cosplay that we think you'd like as well.
Thank you all for watching. We hope you liked this video.
Thank you to all of our Patreons for the support. Your support helps us make these videos happen, and we'll see you after your next quest.